Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with the real Nate Payo. The show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
From author Donnie Bovine comes the book, How to Be a Success Champion, available on Amazon. After years of living other people's dreams, author Donnie Bovine decided to jump out on his own and start a business, thinking it would be easy. Instead, he had a rude awakening and quickly understood that he had spent 20 years being an employee and had no idea how to be a business owner. His business was tanking, and he was on the brink of losing everything when he decided to fight for business freedom. In this must-read and life-changing book, author Donnie Bovine shares with readers his story intermingled with lessons learned from his mistakes and his failures. In How to Be a Success Champion, you will find advice the author received from mentors and how he went from zero to a six-figure business. The author walks you through the steps of how to get out of your own way, how to play the game of business and win, find your strengths, how to network effectively, how to build a personal brand, how to create champions for your business, how to get great at sales, how to take complete ownership of you and your business. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. Order your copy right now. It makes a great book for corporate events too. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon.
Hello. Welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. I am your host, Nate Payo. Today, joined with a special guest, Eric Wallace. Eric Wallace is a professional athlete in 3 sports. He's a professional model and a photographer. He's also a speaker and an entrepreneur. Not only that, he's the founder of Polymath Playground. Welcome to the show, Eric. How are you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So I have to ask you first the word polymath, which is interesting because I had never heard that word ever before until maybe a few weeks ago, and I met somebody else that said he was a polymath. I was like, what does that mean? So maybe you can talk a little bit. What does polymath mean to you? What does that word mean?
Well, we hear it and we know it more as a Renaissance man, or we hear the phrase I hate and I like to break down and redefine, jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But it's actually deeper than that, bigger, because the saying, the jack of all trades, master of none. My challenge is be a jack of all trades, but master of many. But a polymath is an individual who specializes in many different areas or has many different experiences or expertise and stuff. So I was drawn to it because of my natural journey in sports, and also outside of sports, my interest in other fields, other hobbies and passions that I had. So, it took me from basketball, playing professional basketball overseas, as well as playing Australian rules football, being one of the first Americans to really try my hand at that a couple years ago, about 8 years ago, going to Australia and playing that game for 3 years, and coming back here and joining the Carolina Panthers. Basically just being open to other experiences and following my own passions and not seeing where it took me, but knocking on the right doors and say, hey, I want to do this. I want to do that because I'd like to. I'm interested in it. And my thing is, we're all natural polymaths. It's just a matter of tapping into those other passions or hobbies that we do have. And, instead of saying, I wish I could do that, now it's the perfect time to learn how to do it and say I do that as well.
Yeah. What I love about the idea of polymath is that you have an interest in multiple facets, but it's a level of becoming competent or an expert in it, not just dabbling in it. And I think like for me personally, maybe it's like I grew up as a Gen Xer, so maybe it's the transition from baby boomer to Gen Xer, where like you just had a job and you were defined as one person, and that's just all you did. And so when you kind of like step out of, hey, I've got this career, I'm known for this, but I'm also have a profound interest in this other thing that I can do pretty well, and I got another hobby, and then you constantly are learning, you're constantly evolving, you're learning new skills, and sometimes you take that interest to as far as you want to take it. And you say, I've kind of learned as much as I want to learn about playing an instrument. Now I want to go this other path, and that's okay to become an expert in it. And the idea that like you're not a kid anymore, pick something and focus on it. It's like, no, you should be able to continue to learn and experience. And hey, like you said, you played professional sports. Like, okay, well, I was a football player for a period of my time, but that doesn't mean my life's over. I have nothing else to to do. Like, you're going to chase other interests and other desires. So I love that. I'm just starting to fall in love with this term polymath, and seeing it around more is awesome.
The most famous one we know of is Leonardo da Vinci.
Yep.
He's one of the biggest. I think growing up, I already had a fascination with the Renaissance period, as well as Leonardo da Vinci, and didn't really do much studying on it. But it was something about Leonardo da Vinci, even growing up, like Mona Lisa, Last Supper. But recently, in the last couple of years, I've started to read all of his books. Most of the biographies on him. My favorite one was the one by Isaacson. Leonardo da Vinci, and it really dove into the way he thought and like his notes that he took. And his thing was the fact that we know him as a painter. We know him as, the prolific painter of the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, Ginevra da Vinci, and we know him as that. But he had his hand in so many different other aspects of life. City grids, rearranging cities to work better with the waterways and the rivers. Stage production. He was the one who started, making stage production stuff like the pop out and robotic stuff. The flying machines. He's the reason we can fly these days, because his brain was there. He invented the scuba gear about 200, 300 years before it was actually invented. But his brain was just so wired to many different other things that he'd write notes, trivial notes about stuff that you read his notes like, why would you want to learn about this? Why would you want to learn about the tongue of a woodpecker? Why would you want to learn about that? That's in his notes. Why would you want to learn? Why would you want to, in his notes, like, I don't know, I want to go to the bathhouse and study the men for, X amount of time. Like, he cut open cadavers and, figured out the way the human body worked inside. And what that did was, and Isaacson kind of tied it all together, he had already seen and had all these experiences firsthand. And even if he didn't know, he asked an expert, how does this work? How do you do this? And he brought it to his memory bank and his, knowledge. And when he sat down to paint the Mona Lisa, painter, as what we know him as, he'd already seen, the lighting coming off of here, or the way the human muscles work in the face and stuff. So now him painting Mona Lisa is simple, easy. This is what I do. And this is, but I'm drawing information from outside sources to make a 500-year-old painting that people are still going to go see nowadays. So.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Is you're gathering information from places that are maybe on the surface level irrelevant or not they don't make sense. Like, why does this relate to that? But you never know where inspiration might find. You never know where you're going to learn a piece of information that translates to something else. And it's just a great thing to do is to have a consistent level of curiosity throughout life and never give up on that learning. So that leads me to my first question. Does a polymath, do you believe in luck? Is luck something that plays a part in your life, or what are your thoughts on that?
I got two views on it. One view is, yeah, there's chance. There's always chance that something can happen to an outlier somewhere, far off. But my belief is, I always go back to Larry Bird. It was my favorite quotes from Larry Bird. Luck is just where practice meets opportunity. I even hear Tiger Woods always talk about, yeah, to play golf, you need, a level of skill, you need concentration, you need focus, and you need luck. But in those instances where we see these great, I like to go back to athletics, but we see these great plays or lucky plays, or, wait, how did he do that? Or how does Tiger Woods hit a ball 250 yards and it go into the hole? He already has the skills to put himself in a situation where it can happen.
Yep.
Larry Bird is, he's shot 1 million jump shots before. Now it's just a matter of during the game, he can turn around with his eyes closed and shoot the same thing. We say it's, man, that was a lucky shot. Man, that's crazy. Was it? Or is it just an opportunity where he's already put himself in that situation where, yeah, you might need, maybe a divine hand to maybe push it over a millimeter, but, without like the focus or the prerequisites to being in that situation, luck, can't even enter the conversation. So I do feel like it does take some preparation in order for a little bit of outside hand to come into it.
Yeah, it definitely does. You talked about the practice and luck combined. It's like, if Tiger Woods doesn't have the skills, the odds of him being able to make those shots become significantly less. And the more we put ourselves in positions for success, the more luck we tend to have, because the probabilities become higher and higher. So, that's something that's very important. Can you talk a little bit about Polymath Playground and what is Polymath Playground?
That's been an endeavor of mine for, I think, maybe about 3-4 years now. Really starting to try to find my footwork as far as like starting a 501c3 nonprofit organization to basically educate, connect, and produce future polymaths. A lot of times we do want to do other different things or follow our different passions and hobbies. Sometimes we don't know where to start. I would like to start an organization where, like in my city or any other cities, go around and connect people to the people they need to be talking to, or hear speeches from, have Q&As with, have workshops with. Let's say you want to be, you want to work for the city, or, you want to work in politics in a way. Sometimes we don't know how to do that without like a, higher education or not knowing the right person. So kind of being a super connector, helping individuals find different avenues. And sometimes you find out about it, get some information on it and find out it's not what you want to do. But, yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, like, hey, how does someone, learn to become a polymath? And it's a lot of connections and a lot of discovering what you have an interest in. And you talked about like introducing people to ideas and having a place for that. And I think that's super important, because most people follow a path in their life that's kind of what they've been exposed to a sense. There's people that can do drastically different things, but a lot of times if like your parents were in an industry or a family business, or back in the day, if you were making shoes, your kids made shoes and your kids made shoes, and it was hard to kind of learn a different thing, and you didn't know, like, hey, how could I learn to do something else I have an interest in, because you don't know anybody. If you're in the Midwest, you say, I want to learn to scuba dive, but I'm not near the ocean, or I want to, like, how do you make those connections? How do you learn? And the only way you learn is you get exposed to the people, and that, like, a community of people with a level of interest. So if you said, hey, you yourself go, hey, I want to go play Australian rules football. You grew up in the United States. I didn't know anybody that played Australian rules football growing up. I don't know if you didn't know.
I didn't even know what it was before I really went down there. I think I'd seen it on TV once, but that was it.
Yeah. So like, how do you learn about it? And you have to just kind of like start hanging out with people that do it, and they teach you the rules of the game. They introduce you to coaches, teams. You're like, oh, well, how do I get plugged in? And the way you get plugged in is you just start immersing yourself with that topic until it's a level that you feel comfortable with, and you go on your own, or you pivot and you find something else that you have some interest in. So I think that's a really cool thing to provide for people. And it's definitely something, at least but my experience with education has not really trained people for. It's more like, here's how you get into a job, and here's, stay focused on one thing, lose your creativity, lose your interest, quit asking questions. But when you do ask a lot more questions and you do have a lot more curiosity, I think it triggers back to your whatever your primary interest is. It can help it because it challenges you to ask better questions about what you're seeing and what you're doing and what relates to it. And some of the most innovative people around right now are definitely polymaths, and it's probably just not a word that's not as used as often that should be. So it's very, very cool.
It's a term that most of us don't realize we are until you start to really see that, yeah, I do like doing that. I would like to do that. And then, a lot of times we get locked into maybe the 9 to 5 that we do have, and we forget that, playing guitar was one of our passions about 10 years ago. Why not pick it up? And, next, you're not going to be Jimi Hendrix tomorrow, maybe, but you could start playing in a coffee shop and, down the street on Thursdays. So, there you go. You got people saying, oh, I didn't know you did that too. So there you go.
It's just like everything that kind of leads, it's like a little bit here, a little bit there leads to big changes in your life. And, you're right. You might not be the next Jimi Hendrix, but you might play in your coffee shop, and you might meet somebody at that coffee shop playing you never had met before, who introduces you to somebody else. And somebody say, hey, can you come play at this wedding, and we'll pay you? And all saying like, hey, I'm a professional musician.
All of a sudden, you're a professional musician. Yeah.
Very cool. So right now you're a professional model, professional photographer, professional speaker, and entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit about what you're currently doing, and what is the future for Eric Wallace? Where do you want to see yourself in 5-10 years out?
5-10 years out, ideally, I'd love to be doing photography full time, modeling as well. Right now, I'm currently on both sides of the camera, modeling exclusively for DXL, the big and tall models, and the two photographers that shoot for DXL, mostly Johnny Corbett and Quentin Dadova. They were the ones that really got me into photography about a year ago. And I'd love to be shooting photography full time. I'd love to be modeling, continuing that, as well as getting some more on screen experience in some big blockbuster movies and stuff. So I'd love to be in the entertainment side of things, as well as having Polymath Playground reaching hundreds, if not thousands, of people on a daily or weekly basis. So,
yeah, those are big goals, big ambitions, big dreams. But like you said, you just start small, and you get plugged in, and you make connections, and you're meeting the players in the industry you're in. They'll introduce you to somebody else, and you never know when those doors are going to be open. So you can't get there without putting yourself out there to begin with.
You gotta put yourself out there.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question, which is all in. What does being all in on an idea or an outcome mean to you?
For me, man, I've went all in on so many careers now, and they've all led me to another open door. For me, going all in is at the centerpiece of being a polymath. We can find the one thing that maybe pays the bills, or we're naturally good at, and we go all in on that. And a lot of times we close the door to different opportunities. But for me, going all in has been, no, I'm going 100 miles an hour at this, but at the same time, I don't ignore the fact that you might have some information for me that I could use to get me to where I want to go in this career or in this path. And if it throws me off just a little bit, that's the next path. I'm still going forward. For me, all in is just, making up the decision that regardless of whatever happens tomorrow, regardless of maybe I don't have enough money to pay for equipment I need or the trip I need to go on, I'm still going hard at this. And I've made up my mind I'm going to keep doing this. And I've needed to have that, especially when I was in Australia playing a sport I didn't know how to play. I know they speak English down there, but when I first got there, it was hard for me to understand the accent. I couldn't run around the field once back then, but me making a commitment was, what got me to the point where 3 years later I was, a dominant player, a player that could hold his own with players that have been playing for 20 years prior, longer than I have. So, that's what I think of all in. You got to make that 100% commitment regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I love that you described it as like you're going down a path and there's going to be shifts and they're going to put you in a little different direction. And I think for me personally with my journey, it's been that way. It's like, hey, I know I want to go this way. I'm not sure exactly how to get there, but I know it's moving forward and there's going to be things that come up and they're going to push me one way or the other. But along the way, there's going to be other ideas, other opportunities, other people I'm going to meet. They're going to, guide me down this path. And where I thought I might go might not be where I end up. It might be down this other path, but it's going to be the right path because I'm going to be making decisions that feel right for me as I progress through this journey. And you talk about, hey, sometimes we don't have the money or the resources to do what we need to do. But if you just trust like the process and go, hey, if I'm resourceful, if I ask better questions of myself, like how can I find ways to do something? One of the guys I was chatting with, it's called I think he's called the Bucket List Guy. He's an Australian and he does that. He's like, well, how can you, if you had a bucket list of something you want to do before you die, it's like, well, why can't you do it now? So you start asking yourself questions like, how can I do something that I want to do that maybe I don't have the money to do it? And when you start thinking about it, you go, hey, I want to go on this trip. I want to go here. I can't afford to go, but you start looking around, like all of a sudden you go, oh crap, I could go and maybe be a teacher on this excursion, or I could figure out a way to go as some other source and be paid to go on this trip. And here I am to go into it. So it's about asking yourself better questions, figuring out how you can get there, not hitting roadblocks and giving up on your passion. So I do love that. I did mean to go back and ask you, what made you want to go to Australia to play Australian rules football, knowing you've never played that before?
That came about because when I finished up at Seattle University, got my master's there, played basketball there. My friend, one of my agent at the time, he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, I mean, they're having one of your teammates is having an NFL workout with the San Diego Chargers. You want to go down there? Give it a look. You might be a pretty good football player." I never went out to try out. It never happened. But at that time, he basically said, "So you're willing to play football?" I also hear Australia AFL is looking to have more Americans to come and play the sport down there, and they're having a workout at the end of the summer. If you want to, we can put that in the back pocket. Keep going at these, overseas contracts. I was getting contracts coming in from various countries, but end of the summer came. I went down and did the combine down in LA. Free trip to LA. Why not see what they're talking about? And it's about 40 football players, basketball players, mostly basketball players that they brought out. And they picked 3 of us to come out to Australia to do the actual combine. And from there, I was the one that got picked. So
very cool.
For me, it was just, why not? Let's go see what they're talking about. And, and I went down there and saw the sport was pretty good, and saw how crazy the fans loved their sport of Australian rules football. And, it was, if the window wasn't half cracked for NFL to come back here, I probably would have stayed down there.
Well, it's a pretty cool opportunity to go be able to travel the world. play a sport professionally, then come back and play, on one of the biggest stages in the world, and the biggest sporting event is football's huge, and that's a pretty exciting life. So let's talk about where people. Oh, wait, before I ask that question, the people you're looking to work with, the people that are looking to reach out, get connected with you. Can you describe who that person is you're trying to reach and connect with?
I like to always go back to remember back when we were kids. Monday you were maybe a cowboy. Tuesday you were a police officer. Wednesday you were a firefighter. Thursday you were a ninja or something. We shelve these desires or this adventure side of us when we get to the real world. And they tell us, you got to pick that one thing and that's it and stick to it. And mind you, I respect the specialist. I wish I could be a specialist in one thing, but just my mind just thinks of like, yeah, I want to do this, but also like doing that. How can I incorporate it all together? I respect the hell out of specialists, but for me, it's just people who know that they have interests in many different other things, and it's just how do I tap into it? I think one of the best stories that I got when I came back from Australia and joined the Panthers. One of my old teammates, he played from high school. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, I've been sitting on for months or years trying out for firefighters. And when I saw you came back from Australia from a sport you didn't know how to, we didn't think you were going to do much down there, but killed it down there. Came back and joined the Panthers. Seriously, what else are you going to do?" It really motivated me to go out, try for the firefighters, and become a firefighter. That was an inspirational story for me because I was just doing my own thing, just, trying to, just living my life. I just want to do it. But I didn't realize the impact it was having on someone who had been sitting on a dream of theirs or a goal of theirs. And, I just want to reach out to people who may be sitting on a dream of, or sitting there saying, I wish I could, or I'd like to do this, or, it'd be cool if I could do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
That's amazing because one of the things is that I've noticed is like when you start sharing who you are and what you're doing with people, you don't realize people are actually listening and paying attention, and you don't know until they tell you, like, say, hey, you really made a big difference in my life. And I think that you've made a point there where you're like, hey, you're doing stuff for yourself, and it's my jam, it's just what I'm doing. And somebody says, hey, you changed my life because of what you're doing, now I'm going to go, and you go, man, that feels pretty damn good to make that difference. And you really described, I think, the person, like, I got that idea of being a kid and being curious and like, hey, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a cowboy. I want to be a firefighter. I want to, do all these things. And you maybe think something's wrong with you because you're like, why can't I be focused on one thing? But it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. Chase those dreams, chase that curiosity, and be that person that you're meant to be, because you're going to inspire somebody else. They might not tell you, you might not ever know it, but people are watching you, and people are going to change the way they live their lives based on the inspiration you're doing. So that's very cool. Love what you're up to. So where can people find you if they want to get connected?
I'm definitely on Instagram. Instagram handle Polymath Wallace. Also my photography page on Instagram, Photo by Polymath. And my website, Wallace, RIC.com. It kind of runs onto my name. But you can find me there, and I'm always willing to chat, and always got something going on.
Cool. We'll put all those links in the show notes, and I encourage anybody listening to reach out, connect with Eric. He's got a lot of great stories to tell. He's got a lot of inspiration. I think you're going to realize that you probably have a lot of curiosity yourself, and I think Eric can help bring that out of you. And I'm looking forward to seeing the future of Polymath Playground, and I think that would be, a wonderful thing to have in any community. I think it's something that's definitely missing, and it's going to be beneficial to kids and other people just as they're growing up and getting exposed to new ideas. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Eric. Had a great time chatting with you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.